Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel, The Healing Planet. My name is Melinda, and tonight I'm going to read you the first chapter of this beautiful, amazing, wonderful book entitled The 13 Original Clan Mothers by Jamie Sams. Your sacred path to discovering the gifts, talents, and abilities of the feminine through the ancient teachings of the sisterhood. And the first chapter is about the clan mother of the first moon cycle, talks with relations. And we already had our first new moon of 2020, which fell on the 24th of January. But I was sick with the flu, so I am recording this on February the 6th. 3 days before the full moon that's coming up in Leo. So I just really felt led to record a couple of videos today, also about the divine feminine and masculine. And there are just so many synchronicities between everything that's happening today. I feel really in the flow. So I hope you will enjoy this reading. So let's begin. Talks with relations. Mother of Nature talks with her kin. Stone person, wildflower, and wolf are her friend. Weaving the rhythms of the seasons, she rides the winds of change, opening her heart with gladness, a shelter from hunger and pain. Guardian of the needs of the earth, making relatives great and small, Mother, I see you in the dewdrop, I hear you in the eagle's call. Talks with Relations is the clan mother of the first moon cycle and is the keeper of learning the truth. This cycle of truth falls in January and is understood through finding kinship with all life. Talks with Relations teachers are the allies of nature, the four winds of change, the cloud people, the thunder beings, the creature beings, the tree people, the plant people, the little people, devas or fairies, the stone people, the clan chiefs of air, earth, water, and fire, as well as all other life forms. These relatives of our planetary family are our teachers as well. Through Talks with Relations, the Mother of Nature, we learn that we are all relatives in the planetary family. The tree people, creature teachers, stone people, cloud people, and all other life forms are our sisters and brothers. Our aunts and uncles are the four clan chiefs of air, earth, water, and fire. Our mother is the earth, our father is the sky, and our grandparents are grandmother moon and grandfather sun. To learn the truth, we must open ourselves to the vast worlds within worlds that make up all of the great mysteries creation. Talks with Relations is the aspect of the Earth Mother that contains a seeking mind, a willingness to learn, and an understanding of the rhythm of each life form or area of Earth being viewed. This first clan mother's cycle is protected by the color orange. Orange carries the medicine of kinship with all life because it is the color of the eternal flame of love that the great mystery placed in the hearts of every part of creation. Anytime we find a feather, a stone, a flower, or a shell with the color orange in it, the lessons that sister or brother can teach us are the lessons of making relatives, right relationship, respect, and our kinship with all life. Through learning truths found in every life form within the planetary family, we are given the opportunity to see the similarities between us. We may find that a flower or a brook can be one of our greatest teachers. When we accept that everything in our world is alive, we are able to access the parts of ourselves that have become numbed or deadened in order to heal and revive our own aliveness. Kinship speaks of having right relationships with the creative force, with the self, with our orendas or spiritual essences, with our bodies, with family, friends, worthy opponents, and with all our relations in every part of the natural world. These relationships can become loving, productive situations that offer us opportunities to exchange ideas and to learn the lessons of sharing with unity in order to grow in truth. Talks with Relations is the mother of nature who welcomes all life forms into her clan. She sees the beauty of each and honors the talents each holds. She is the keeper of rhythm who teaches us how to find our own rhythm, as well as teaching us how to respect the rhythms of all other things. In learning the truth, we find that every life form has a sacred space and a rhythm. To enter those sacred spaces, we are forced to learn the rhythm of the life form in question. If we learn that rhythm and ask permission with respect, we can enter the world of those sisters and brothers without disturbing the natural order. Talks with Relations teaches us those rhythms and how wild creatures are willing to accept some humans without fear and why they run from others. The acceptance or non-acceptance results from the human's intent, willingness to respect the rhythm and sacred space of the creature being, and or willingness to learn the truth about that life form. Talks with Relations is the guardian of weather and the seasons, who sees to the needs of earth. This clan mother understands how to use the clan chiefs of air, earth, water, and fire to produce the climatic balance necessary for global survival. She teaches human beings that messing with the forces or the elements is a tricky thing because every action contains a reaction. The results may not be readily apparent, but they will surely affect the balance of the Earth Mother's intricate ecology. If a human being is going to call for water as a rain medicine person, that human had best be mindful of the amount of soil can handle and how the rain will affect the life forms downstream. Talks with Relations is the keeper of these mysteries and always urges caution so that the rhythms of all life can be maintained. The making of relatives. Talks with Relations marveled at the luxurious green of the Earth Mother's verdant forests and valleys. The great ice mountains had not yet traveled this far south, and so parts of the only landmass, Turtle Island, were given a short reprieve. Life was teeming amid the nooks and crannies of every inch of the sunlit soil and plant growth that spread before her. She stretched and raised her arms to the light of Grandfather Sun. "Oh, what a pleasure it is to be alive," she whispered to herself. Just then a movement, sly and barely perceptible, caught her attention. She slowed her breathing and squatted low in the sprawling bunch of wild irises and tall cattails at her feet. Not daring to make a sound, she stilled herself until her body gave off no perceivable rhythm of its own. She did not want to disturb the natural occupants of this forest glen, or to keep them from their daily routines, which would eventually bring them to the brook that ran far to the left of her hiding place. She was content to wait and see if the creature that had created the rustle in the undergrowth would show itself. It was not long until a tiny red fox peeked around a boulder resting at the side of the bubbling brook and dashed for the water's edge, took a quick drink, and then dashed back to safety. After deciding it must be safe, despite the strange smell that wafted in and out with the changing breeze, the fox returned. As the little fellow drank from the stream, he occasionally peered around to assure himself that his senses were not fooling him into complacency. Suddenly he was so startled that he became paralyzed when he found himself looking into the kindest eyes he had ever seen. The eyes seemed to be attached to a two-legged human. "Greetings, Brother Fox," Talks with Relations said gently. "I trust that I did not frighten you." Fox forgot himself and replied spontaneously, I thought I was the one who was so expert at the art of camouflage. You ought to be a fox, not a two-legged. How did you do it? Oh, you don't have to answer that. I already know how because I do it myself. Well, Fox, it may surprise you to know that I have walked the earth for many suns and many sleeps, getting to know all my relations, she replied. It is important for me to learn the ways of all my children, because I am the mother of nature, and I must learn the needs of every creature, teacher, plant person, and stone person, so I may serve my family in a good way. Fox looked at Talks with Relations and saw that she was telling the truth. He began to wonder how this beautiful and generous two-legged had happened to choose him to talk to, but he was afraid to ask. He was taken aback when her laughter filled the glen with the most melodic, song-like sounds he had ever heard. "Oh, Fox," she said, "you are a master of invisibility, but you have forgotten to mask your thoughts. Don't you know that I have learned the truth held in the hearts and minds of every living thing? You need not be afraid to ask me anything. Grouse taught me how to enter the sacred spiral of rhythm in order to be in harmony with all of my children. In learning the truth about rhythms, I have been able to weave our thoughts and hearts together so there is no separation between us." At that moment, Centipede came scampering down a log that had fallen across the brook in the last big rain. Her multitude of legs, rhythmically moving in time, suddenly seemed to trip upon one another as she tried valiantly to come to a halt in front of Talks with Relations. Her long back arched as she pulled up to stop, with her rear end curling up like a dry autumn leaf before finally coming to a halt. "My goodness," she whispered, nearly out of breath. "I thought I heard your sweet laughter, Mother. I'd know that musical sound anywhere. What a pleasant surprise." Fox looked from Talks with Relations to Centipede, wondering how they knew one another. Then he decided he had better sit down on the boulder by the brook to sun himself. It appeared that this reunion would probably take a while, and his feet had been getting cold while he was standing in the water listening to Talks with Relations. "Centipede, it has been many long moons since we have spoken. I must thank you for teaching me how to find my body's center and stride. The long walks to the sea and to the plains took many suns and sleeps, but my arms and legs were working in harmony. It felt wonderful with every body part working in rhythm with the other. We both remember when I was a mess of arms and legs, tripping over every pebble and scraping every bush, can't we? Talks with Relations said. Centipede giggled and replied, Well, I was so happy to see you again. I nearly rolled down this cottonwood log. I forget my own medicine too when I get excited. I keep on growing extra legs in my old age, and I seem to have to teach the new ones how to work in unison with the old ones over and over again. Talks with Relations smiled and said, I certainly understand how you feel, Many Legs. Setting up the rhythms of the seasons has been a task as well. The Earth Mother is still changing her path in the Sky Nation, and the green moons of new sprouting grasses are growing shorter, while the white moons seem to grow longer, with more snow and ice. Fox spoke up and asked, Is that why so many of the creature beings of the steppes are coming our way? Centipede nodded and Talks with Relations agreed. You see, Fox, the Earth Mother has given me the task of learning about the needs of all the Earth tribe, so I may assist her in finding the correct path across the Sky Nation. Eventually, there will be 4 seasons and 4 winds of change that will assist all of us in finding the rhythms of harmony. The 3 white moons will give us a time of rest when the ice beings will cover the soil. Then the green moons will begin for 3 cycles, bringing new life to the plant people. Then the 3 yellow moons will bring a time of ripening and fullness. The 3 red moons will follow, bringing the time of harvest. The 13th moon is the blue moon, when all the children of Earth will find their natural ability to change and transform. Centipede sighed and smiled. It will be a good thing to see, Mother, and all of us will give thanks for the work you are doing on our behalf. Talks with Relations was pleased that she was learning the truth of how to fulfill the needs of all the children of Earth and how to understand their medicines. Life was good, and each new day brought new lessons to be learned, new truths to explore, and new rhythms to add to the whole. She was discovering that she made every living thing her relative when she entered the flow of each relation's rhythms and listened to the inner drum of the heartbeats of each. Her mind flew to the memory of how she had first learned that lesson. As Grandfather Sun's light sent warm orange beams through her closed eyelids, she drifted to that long ago moon and saw a swan drifting across a high mountain lake. That sun had been unusually warm. Talks with Relations had been speaking with Blue Jay, who was teaching her the medicines and talents of the Standing People. Blue Jay was not talking for the trees because the Standing People could talk. Talks with Relations had asked Blue Jay to come with her because his medicine was using intuition to speak the truth, and in those early days she was just learning how to use her human body to sense things. Being a little unsure of her new skills, she had asked Blue Jay to accompany her. For hours, 2 friends had sat with the Standing People, listening as the wind chief gently blew through the limbs of the trees, bringing their voices to life. Talks with Relations had first experienced human frustration during that sun. She was able to understand the medicine of Aspen, who was the seer and carried observer medicine, because her own eyes could see the eye-like forms in Aspen's trunk, every place a branch had disconnected and fallen. She was able to feel the medicine of inner peace when she sat with her back against Pine's sturdy trunk. She felt Dogwood's medicine of balance when she saw the blossoms which formed the four directions of the sacred hoop. But her intuition was failing her in hearing and understanding the languages of these standing relations. Blue Jay was very kind to Talks with Relations and called for a break in the lessons. He could see that her frustration was bringing her close to tears. How very human she is, and yet how very inhuman in her willingness to treat all things with such respect, he thought to himself. I am not afraid to speak the truth to her because she wants to learn the truth more than anything else. My intuition tells me she must also learn the importance of resting when her body's rhythms are being pushed beyond their capacity to endure. It must be difficult for her, no longer being in spirit form and having to limit herself to the perceptions of a human body. Blue Jay took Talks with Relations down the hill to the lake and had her sit in the sand along the shoreline, where clumps of soft green grass stood like hillocks meant for napping. While she settled her body on a grass-covered rise, Blue Jay told her that he was going to bring a friend to join them and that she should relax while he was gone. Talks with Relations was so caught up in her own frustration that she did not hear Blue Jay's message, and so her mind kept on whirling with thoughts of how she could learn the language of the standing people. She did not even notice when Blue Jay returned with his friend, Swan. Swan had glided effortlessly across the lake and was floating gently near the water's edge, patiently waiting. Blue Jay finally started squawking a long tirade of admonitions in order to get Talks with Relations' attention. Well, Swan, we could push her in the lake to wash the frustration out of her head, or we could call Ostrich to dig a hole in the sand, and then the three of us could bury her head, he screeched. But still there was no reaction from Talks with Relations. Blue Jay saw Ostrich down the shoreline and called to her. While she was trotting over, he continued his mocking monologue. Well, here comes Ostrich. You will be shown how to bury your head in the sand instead of burying it in needless frustrations, Blue Jay said loud enough for Ostrich to hear. Talks with Relations was still lost in her turbulent thoughts when Ostrich sauntered up and shrugged her shoulders, wondering what to make of this young, troubled woman. Swan waited patiently while Ostrich and Blue Jay decided to get the woman's attention. After a conspiratorial giggle, Blue Jay went to rest on a nearby piece of driftwood, and Ostrich bent over and tweaked Talks with Relations' nose. Talks with Relations was so startled she cried out, not from pain, for Ostrich had been very gentle, but from the shock of suddenly seeing two of the largest, heavy-lidded eyes she had ever encountered at close range. Everyone was laughing uncontrollably except for Talks with Relations, who was stunned into silence. Blue Jay commented that she must have been tied up by her own machinations. Swan replied that Ostrich, whose medicine was how to interact with others through communication, could lend a helping wing now that they had Talks with Relations' attention. Each comment brought further peals of laughter until the young woman saw the ridiculousness of the situation and joined in herself. In between rolling waves of guffaws, Ostrich explained to Talks with Relations that when others were not communicating clearly or interacting in a way that would include everyone, Ostrich also had the tendency to bury her head. When even one person was excluded from a group, Ostrich would imitate those refusing to listen to everyone's ideas by burying her head in the sand until someone noticed. They usually noticed when they were confronted with Ostrich's rear end sticking in the air, giving them an idea of what she thought of them. In the present situation, Ostrich had not needed to bury her head because Talks with Relations had already buried her own head in her frustrations. The laughter had definitely changed the mood of the afternoon, and Talks with Relations was now refreshed and paying attention instead of wondering why human limitations seemed to curtail her natural abilities to simply know. She was learning the lessons of how to use human senses, and the laughter felt good as it rolled from her lips and made her belly jiggle. Her heart was feeling the warmth of friendship, and her skin was tingling from the spray of water Swan's wings had stirred up during the excitement. She decided that it was good to feel the pleasures of a body and was happy to be alive. Ostrich and Blue Jay watched silently as Swan spoke to Talks with Relations in a soothing way, gently sliding across the glassy water, creating another change in mood. You see how my body curves and my neck slopes and undulates when I move across the water? I'll read that again. You see how my body curves and my neck slopes and undulates when I move across the water? She asked. Talks with Relations nodded in agreement as Swan continued. The water spirits do not resist the movement of my body. They assist me in feeling the flow of their currents as well as my own. Watch me glide into the lake and watch the gracefulness of my neck as I show you the water dance. Talks with Relations' body began to be lulled into the same rhythm as Swan's as she watched. It seemed as if a small breeze had brought the lapping waves of the water spirits into Talks with Relations' body. She began to drift and dream as the hypnotic movements of Swan's body taught her to surrender. When she awoke, she understood how she could learn the languages of all living things. She could do more than observe and feel from her own viewpoint. She had learned how to surrender her own sacred space and sacred point of view, how to ask permission, and when it was received, how to enter the sacred space of another and to learn their language. She was excited as she relayed her Dreamtime experiences to Swan, Blue Jay, and Ostrich. In her dream, she had flown with Falcon and learned his medicine of hunting for solutions. Falcon had taken her deep into the jungles of Turtle Island and had shown her the steaming green realms of dense vegetation. There, the Earth Mother mirrored the steam of smoky human confusions and frustrations. Together they had flown through the foggy confusion of the dream until they could see clearly. The snow sparkled on faraway peaks as they had viewed the mountain tops of the jungle below, where the great apes lived among the highlands of dense growth. Gorilla was the wordless storyteller who acted out and mimicked until the observer could see the solution or point of the story for himself or herself. In the dream, Talks with Relations had watched Gorilla while she circled with Falcon, seeing the mime from all directions. It was not long before Gorilla's strong medicine of communication and teaching through actions had brought understanding to Talks with Relations' heart. His movements had been funny at first until she had understood how he was teaching the others of his tribe to accomplish a given task. It was then that she noticed that he had imitated a younger ape in order to get its attention, then made a game of it so that the youngster would imitate him. It became clear to her that Falcon had showed her a solution to her problem. She did not need to feel that she was separated from other life forms because she had a human body. She could imitate their habits and see how it felt to be them. Through imitating the actions of her creature teachers, she could then surrender to the feelings she had when becoming like them. It did not matter that her teachers were plants, stones, animals, clouds, or wind and water spirits. Understanding their languages would take time, but the more like them she became, and the more she could understand how and why their lives were similar to her own, the easier it would become for her to know how each species chose to communicate. Ostrich, blue jay, and swan were very happy that Talks with Relations had broken through the frustration and into understanding. The foursome retreated to the soft shadows of the forest, with Talks with Relations leading the way. She was determined to use her newly found understanding to communicate with her tree relations. Until now, she had merely observed and tried to listen as the wind spirits moved gently through the emerald and jade boughs of the standing people. Now it was time to practice and develop her communication skills. With all her friends settled around her, she began to announce her intention. I have learned how to surrender to the rhythms of the sacred space around me, and now, with permission, I would like to become like a standing person, she said. The ancient pine tree person dropped a pine cone that rolled to her feet as an offering of friendship. She accepted the giveaway with pleasure. Talks with Relations knelt and dug a hole in the soft soil and needles, burying her feet up to the ankles. Then she stood tall and proud and lifted her arms like branches to the rays of sunlight filtering through the dense green of the forest. Silence enveloped all of those gathered as she closed her eyes and became a human tree. It was then that she heard the voices of the standing people come from their wooden hearts and speak to hers. Our language is heard through the heart, not the ears. We speak of all we see in a place, for we are the silent observers of the earth. Our roots draw deeply from the well of love found in our Earth Mother's soil, and our limbs reach higher every day to seek the light of Grandfather Sun. We are the living balance between Mother Earth and Father Sky, female and male, receiving and giving. Of all life forms, we are the closest in makeup to the human beings because we show them how to honor the balance of heaven and earth within themselves. We show them, through example, how to be the silent observers of life, how to stand tall, and how to give and receive. Though nothing stirred in the forest, no breeze blew through the boughs of these tree people, Talks with Relations heard the voice of ancient redwood. It pointed out to her that with her arms arched upward, her body created two circles. The circles formed a figure 8. The upper circle met the lower circle in her heart, with the upper one encircling the Sky Nation and the lower one connecting her to the center of the Earth Mother. It was as if she were standing on top of one circle and holding the other one above her, using her body as the cross connection between the two. These are the two medicine wheels of life, Redwood said. The human beings, like the tree people, have the ability to be the balance between the earth and sky. When the two-leggeds reach for the most they can be, the sky wheel brings the messages of the spirit world to them through their human hearts. The earth wheel allows the plants, stones, animals, and elements of nature to be the Earth Mother's teachers and interpreters of those spiritual messages. Human beings feel and understand the messages that the Great Mystery sends by observing the actions of the teachers that these planetary counterparts represent. Meeting in the heart, both medicine wheels show that heaven and earth, the spiritual and the tangible, are equal and are one. You see, talks with relations, the only true limitation of being human comes when the heart is closed. When the heart is open, all of creation can be accessed and understood. You have become that balance now, and it will serve you well. The memory of that time and the lessons learned filled the Mother of Nature's body with a warm feeling, gently bringing her back to the moment. The orange glow that had reflected Grandfather Sun's light on her eyelids had changed to a deeper salmon color, signaling that this sun was nearly at its end. She could hear the trout jumping for flies in the melodious brook. She could smell the first wafts of night-blooming jasmine, and she tasted the moisture that was collecting on the stones at the water's edge. Inside her mind, pictures of these changes were dancing with hundreds of other perceptions. She could hear the faint snore of fox who had fallen asleep, and the scratching of centipede's many legs against the cottonwood trunk. Yes, she thought, I have learned well. Truth speaks to me now in hundreds of ways through all the senses of body, heart, mind, and spirit. I can feel the rhythms of the animals' feet through the soil as they approach the water for their evening drink. I can feel the light of stars even before they poke holes in the purple blanket of the early evening sky. Life sends me flutters of feelings deep in my belly with every rhythmic change around me, and I feel those changes inside of me, for I am an extension of it all. With her eyes still closed, Talks with Relations gently and quietly reached for the stone person she had hanging around her neck by a thong. The rock had a natural hole in it that had been created by the constant dripping of water over hundreds of passing suns and sleeps. The stone person's name was Onio, or Song. This special medicine stone still sang to her and recorded all her heart felt and all she experienced, reminding her of the history she was creating by being alive. The natural hole in Onio's body was a sign that the rock was a protection stone. Because the hole was created by the water, the stone helped Talks with Relations to stay in touch with her feelings and to be aware if danger was present. Talks with Relations' body was made of the same minerals as the rock and therefore helped her stay in tune with the heartbeat of the Earth Mother. The Stone People, being the libraries of Earth history, had been very helpful when she had learned that language. Through her journeys, she had come to understand the markings on their bodies in much the same manner she had learned the languages of the Standing People. Through the Stone People, she had come to understand that all forces in nature have cycles, and that these cycles are present in the growth of all things. She had been able to review the history of all that had happened on earth, and she was shown the natural evolution of all life forms as the stones had recorded it. The shell cousins from the seas had taught her to listen to the rhythms of the tides and to her own body's cycles. The cloud people had shown her the faces and forms of all things in the natural world. When one of the various children of earth was in danger, the face of the one who called for help would take form in the clouds. The clan chiefs of air, earth, water, and fire had blended and separated in her presence to teach her the spontaneous forces of creation found in nature. With this knowing system firmly rooted in her heart, Talks with Relations was able to command the weather, bringing life-giving rains or new lava flows to maintain the balance